Welcome, everybody. We're going to be chatting about teaching freedom, empowering activists with Bitcoin education. And so we're going to kind of paint a picture of, I guess, how Anna came to Bitcoin, how I came to human rights, and then a little bit of what we're currently working on. So I guess we'll queue up first with Anna, if you can kind of give yourself and your story an introduction and how you came to Bitcoin over time.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And honestly, I'm quite surprised that there are so many people in this room this time, because usually not many people are aware of this topic, Bitcoin for activists. And I want to ask you, have anyone heard about the concept of Bitcoin as a currency for political activists, for political dissidents, that Bitcoin is a currency of last resort for many people in the world? Have you ever heard? Can you raise your hand? Oh, nice. Okay, maybe that's why you came here. Yeah, because usually this topic, unfortunately, doesn't attract many people. Usually Bitcoin is discussed from many different sides, but not many are aware that there are people like me. I'm originally from Russia, and I've been fighting against Putin's regime for 7 years already. I started working as an activist. I joined the Anti-Corruption Foundation, the organization that was founded by Alexei Navalny. And I worked together with Alexei in Russia in 2017, 2018, and then I had to leave the country because of political threats, and I continue my work at the organization in exile. And 2 years ago, I also started collaborating with the Human Rights Foundation. Now I work officially with HRF. At the Human Rights Foundation, I educate activists and non-profit organizations how to adopt Bitcoin in their work, because I have a lot of first-hand experience. At the Russian organization, we've been using Bitcoin since 2016 in our daily operations, because I guess many of you are aware that Russian regime is a dictatorship, and the Russian banking system is fully controlled by the Russian government. And Putin's regime very often manipulates with the banking system in order to shut down organizations that are fighting against it. And that's what they did to us many times. They blocked our bank accounts. We lost access to our money many times because they were constantly attacking our legal entities, our bank accounts of our employees. And like when you operate, when you have a big network, when you pay salaries to people, we had more than 300 employees during the presidential campaign. And I am a financial manager of the organization. I need to pay salaries. And one day I just refresh the page of our online bank, and I see that our bank account is under arrest and we lost all of our fiat savings, and I simply cannot pay salaries to 300 people. And that is why we were using Bitcoin, because every time when something like that happens, we always had access to Bitcoin savings that we could use in order to continue our work. And this is what's happening not only with our organization, this is happening to any opposition movement in Russia, and not only in Russia, in all countries that suffer from oppressive regimes. And today there are 72% of population of this planet living under authoritarian regimes. So it's the majority of people. And so many people so many activists are facing the same struggles. And no one is talking about financial freedom as a human right. Like everyone underestimates these kind of problems. We protect all kinds of freedoms, but we never talk about some people who don't have access to fiat, or for whom it's dangerous to use fiat. So that is why, having this experience at the Russian organization, I decided to join Human Rights Foundation, and I provide education together with Ben. We provide education for activists, for non-profit organizations, and everyone else who suffer from oppressive regimes. We give them tools such as Bitcoin, and today we're going to talk about how we educate and what kind of struggles we have when educating.
I'll talk a little bit about my foray into the Human Rights Foundation as well. A couple things I wanted you to mention. One, just because it's it kind of points out the ridiculousness of kind of the lengths that the Russian government went to impede any progress that you were making. One of them that stood out, and I'll cue you up with two, and then we can go from there. But one of them was the balance of the bank account when you checked it, and then the other thing was it's not just shutting down your bank accounts, but also literally anyone who was dealing with you had any financial relationship with you. So maybe you could talk to those two.
I mean, I have a bunch of mind-blowing stories how we were attacked by the Russian regime. I can talk about it for hours. But yeah, as a financial director, I had to face these kind of situations when I, for example, just refresh the page of our online bank, as I mentioned before, and I see the negative balance. It was like minus 999,999,999, and the number was so long, I didn't even know what the number was. But eventually, it was like minus 13 billion euros on our bank account, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I just, like, a second ago, we had all of our fiat savings there. Then I refreshed the page, and this is what I see. And I was screaming because I had to pay salaries, and I have a negative balance. And I called the bank to clarify what's going on, and they simply say, your bank account is under arrest. And I asked them to provide any documents, why they arrested it. And they say, we don't have any documents, so please call the police. And like, we couldn't find the answer for a couple of days. And then there was a fabricated criminal case against us, of course, but the bank blocked our bank account a couple of days before the criminal case. So someone called the bank and just told them to shut down our bank account. And eventually, people were scared to receive any money from our organization, even if like someone wanted to work with us. For example, we organize a protest rally in Moscow, and we want to rent microphones, stage, equipment, speakers, just for a protest rally. And contractors who were willing to provide this equipment for us, they didn't want to do it just because they didn't want to be paid by us for their services. They realized that we make a payment with fiat from our bank account to their bank account, and their bank account will be shut down for working with us, or they will become a target of the regime for supporting Navalny and Russian opposition, because everyone is aware that Russian banking system is transparent. And it was hard to work because even if people were supporting us, they didn't want to receive money for their services. And many businesses, they don't want to receive cash because they operate, for example, only with banking transfers. And it was very hard sometimes to do anything, to rent out an office because the landlord doesn't want to receive payments from you. And some of my colleagues, they were confused. They didn't know how to keep their savings because bank accounts are constantly under attacks. And if you have cash, there are police raids. Sometimes police knocks on your door at 6 a.m. They come, they put you down with your face to the floor, and they take everything from you, your phones, your laptops, and of course, all the cash they find in your apartment, they also take away from you. And one of my colleagues, she confessed to me that she dug a hole in the ground in her backyard and put cash in a plastic bag and put money there underground because she couldn't find a solution. I mean, right now, of course, I could recommend her Bitcoin, but back then that idea didn't come to my mind. But anyway, yeah, when you live like that, you constantly look for ideas how to operate. And of course, in these cases, Bitcoin is a great solution. Yeah.
Yeah, stories are crazy. I mean, I came into working with the Human Rights Foundation kind of gradually over the past number of years. And my first foray, funny enough, was prior to an event that then gave me a better understanding of what you're talking about. And so I went to an HRF event in 2021, did some, short workshops, things like that, a couple little talks. But the following year was the Canadian trucker protest. And what ended up happening there was, some people asked, hey, would we be able to set up an easy portal if people did want to donate via Lightning? And so at the time, this was just the beginning of it. People were kind of pushing back as the world was. The context was as the world was opening up, Canada was tightening restrictions, and a lot of people didn't realize because they kind of were almost back to normal, and we were getting worse. And so a lot of people didn't understand the context that it was happening under. But what ended up happening was when the protest started, they had the typical fiat on-ramps to be able to donate. GoFundMe, Give, Send, Go, things like that. And people were just donating with their cards and sending online transfers. And so we set up, assuming that the protest would just kind of be a regular, hey, we don't like what's going on, we're going to have a basic protest, and that it would remain legal. Inside of 2 weeks, it became the largest protest in Canadian history, and they began shutting down bank accounts of people that were present at the protest, also revoking things like insurance on vehicles, shutting down business accounts, credit cards, things like that. And they used something called the Emergencies Act, which I'd like to say is like a light version of martial law, where they're not rounding people up in their homes or anything, but they were able to just freely shut bank accounts with no with no discourse, with no process. And so what ended up happening is the donations that were made were frozen for GoFundMe. And GoFundMe said initially was they were just going to give the money away to whatever other cause they felt like doing. They did get threatened with a lawsuit, and so they just sent it back to the donors. But then Give, Send, Go said, we're not going to do that. We'll make sure that the money gets where it's intended. And so they also accepted a bunch of donations. They did try to forward it to the people that were raising it, but as soon as it hit a Canadian bank account, frozen. Couldn't access it. And so in the midst of this, the initial portal that we set up for donations, that our initial funding goal was 10 million sats. So at the time, that would have been about $4,000. And that the wallet, or not the wallet, but the node it was going through on my shelf behind me in my videos, ended up funneling through, instead of $4,000, $1.3 million. So you can imagine the shakes that I had as I'm trying to put on a face and continue making videos. So what, again, the long and the short of it is a lot of mistakes were made out the gate because of the fact that we thought we'd raise a small amount, it wouldn't be the only way to donate, and that the protest would remain very much legal in the eyes of the law, and that completely changed in 2 weeks. And so we were unprepared, but despite some poor moves on my behalf early on, it still ended up being the only digital donation mechanism where the majority of funds got to the intended donors. So it was, again, even doing things improperly, it still worked. And that was the big lesson. And it also gave us a bit of a blueprint to say, mistake here, mistake here, mistake here. Here's how we can do better when something like this happens again. So it was very informative, and that kind of helped the foray into what we're doing now with the Human Rights Foundation, and prepping people with the proper tools, or at least beginning to prep them so that they can get better and better. And so now what we're doing, I'll pass it on.
I just wanted to give a comment on this. that we do so many mistakes. I understand that at the Anti-Corruption Foundation we did so many mistakes when accepting Bitcoin donations. For many years we were just receiving Bitcoin donations to a static Bitcoin address that is placed on our website, because we just didn't have the knowledge that there are some tools exist like BTC Pay Server, or you can protect Bitcoin with like providing different Bitcoin addresses for each donation. Like there are ways to make incoming donations safer. And since our organization is labeled by Putin's regime as an extremist organization, if you are a Russian who want to donate to our organization, you face 8 years of imprisonment for supporting our organization financially. And it is so important to provide safe way of donations, because people want to support us, but they are afraid, and it's very dangerous. And it's very important to be responsible and to make donations safe. But we didn't know that Bitcoin is, it's possible to track the donation if they want to, if the regime wants to do that. They can just check the platforms leak personal data. There are KYC platforms where like people still use it because they have lack of knowledge, and unfortunately we cannot help it. And it's our responsibility on our side to provide some safety layers for our donors. And I just didn't have this knowledge that some tools exist. And right now, since I am in the Bitcoin space, and I know so many great people and educators. I know a lot about it, but the majority don't know anything, and they are in real danger. Our donors are in real danger. They risk their freedom, they risk their lives for supporting organizations like us, and it's very important to give this knowledge to as many people, as many activists as possible. And when I just started researching this space, I felt like I'm a puppy who doesn't know how to swim, and I was thrown into the ocean of Bitcoin things. I didn't know anything, and I was like, so there are thousands of tools, thousands of complicated words, and how do I find one? It took me like a year to understand what I need and what I don't need, what is gonna work, what is not gonna work. But it required a lot of time and research, and for many it's intimidating how much information there is, that everything is so complicated and technical. So our goal right now is to collect all information we have and to make it as simple as possible to teach people on the ground, because we have this experience now. We already provided 2 Bitcoin webinars at the Human Rights Foundation. So basically, it's an online education, and anyone from any part of the world can come to our online education. And we see that people get scared of complicated information if it's too technical, if there are too many new words. And now we are trying to reorganize everything to make it as simple as possible, and we have so many obstacles on the way, because even when we started the webinar, we realized that people don't know things like what is a SAT. Like we start talking about Bitcoin, we say fiat, people don't know what's fiat, people don't know what is a SATs, people don't know anything. And educating, at first we thought that, it's easy, we just give information that we have. But eventually we realized that we should reorganize this and make it approachable for everyone.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. Number one, yeah, you can break through with and you as an activist have a unique voice in that you've gone through the hurdles to kind of utilize these tools to benefit you. But the inspiring thing to me when I think of kind of yourself and the organization and how they've come in terms of their Bitcoin journey is, again, number one, yes, you had a static address that was receiving donations for an extended period of time, but at the end of the day, those donations were still unable to be touched, right? You could point to the address and say, this is how much was donated. Not great, but at the same time, those funds couldn't be removed from your hands easily. But the other thing that inspires me as we discuss kind of what you guys have done is you've gone from static address on a website to BTC Pay Server, new address every time. We were talking about CoinJoin, and you've dug in as somebody that was a layman and then began to really kind of research out of a necessity, and have come to where you are now, which is amazing.
Yeah, I just realized that we're actually a great team in terms of I have hands-on experience as an activist, and I talk to activists, so they trust me. And you have a lot of experience. I mean, you understand all technical details that I don't understand, and you can communicate it to our students. So it's I think we have a perfect match in these terms. But yeah, what we see right now is that there is a big demand from political dissidents, but not only from them, non-profit organizations, and also charities, big donors. They want to provide like grants to some activists on the ground, and they are like asking us how we can make it so people receive it. Because, for example, if there's an American entity wants to support an activist somewhere in Afghanistan, and a person receiving money from an American entity somewhere in Afghanistan, their bank accounts will be shut down immediately for receiving money from, let's say, human rights foundations. So there is like a huge demand, and it's growing and growing. And like 2 years ago, I was at a different Bitcoin conference, and this topic, Bitcoin for activists, didn't attract any attention. The room was empty, absolutely. And I see that in 2 years, everyone understands the significance of this topic. Actually, more and more people working in Bitcoin field, they realize that they can contribute to our educational program. They want to collaborate. And we started collaboration. HRF educational program collaborates with some Bitcoin businesses like Casa, Voltage, CoinKite, like different businesses offer their services for our students. They provide discounts or hardware or whatever they want to offer. And it's actually great that we have this opportunity to reach out to a very diverse crowd and establish connections.
Yeah, it's really valuable when people that are building they reach out and they want to be a part of this. They see, I mean, of any group of people that has a need for freedom money, it's people that are in some of the least free parts of the globe, and there's something special that happens when you do get a mix of Bitcoiners and human rights activists into a room. We both just came from, well, not directly, but a couple weeks ago, we were in Nashville for the Global Bitcoin Summit. And this is an aggregation of Bitcoiners and human rights defenders from around the globe. There were 125 people in a room. And if you want to be humbled, step foot in a room like that, where at the beginning, every person stands up and gives a quick 15 seconds on who they are and what they do, and realize that multiple people in that room have toppled dictators. And I get to stand up, and I'm on YouTube. So it's such an incredible group of people. And to see, Bitcoiners and developers, and I'm not shitting on Bitcoin developers, but a little bit, because we Bitcoiners think we know what people need and want and design for us, but then you get into a room with human rights activists and they're like, no, I need it to do this. This is what I actually need. And so that's, I think the magic of this is getting these two groups of people in a room and allowing the people that need it most to tell us, or to tell the developers what we need built.
Yeah, but we are actually super privileged with you because we can directly talk to these people, and we have direct access to developers, business owners, and it's amazing. And this is what we actually do. I travel to different conferences and I ask everyone, what Lightning wallet do you use? What Lightning wallet do you think is the best? Because right now I'm looking for the best Lightning wallet for our educational program. We have a 3 days webinar, and each session is very short, like 1 hour or 1 hour and a half. And in one session, we must teach people how to download the wallet. We send everyone some sats, and they learn how to receive and how to send, and we have like half an hour for that or even less. And of course, we cannot do on-chain transactions. It will take time, the fees, and we send like $1 or $2. So on-chain is not an option. And what I need is for a person to download a wallet to immediately have access to receiving sats without any extra steps. It must be an instant transaction without any further any previous explanations. And this option just doesn't exist, or it's just one option but beta version that doesn't work properly. And we offer them to try some wallet, and we say, yeah, for now you will use this wallet for the webinar, but in your real life you can use this or that, because there is no solution that is like working right now for everyone. And we have this kind of struggles because as I used to say, I think that most of developers in the Bitcoin community and Bitcoin bubble, they create tools for other Bitcoiners. They don't actually think about end users. They don't think about those who never had any experience in Bitcoin, any experience of downloading a wallet. And if a person who never used Bitcoin before downloads a wallet and the first screen says, get some sats or something like that, get your first sats, and the person's like, what is sats? And that's it. That's the end. They just don't use it. No one is going to go and Google like what is sats because it's too complicated. And we should remember about it. And another thing that is very important is that most of the tools are not translated into different languages. And of course, we think that everyone speaks English, but it's not true. And I'm saying it from my personal experience. I'm from Russia. Most of Russians don't speak English. And if I recommend, for example, I use Moon Wallet for my personal use, and I cannot recommend it to many people. Or Moon is translated right now. At least before, I couldn't recommend it, or any other wallets that are not translated. I cannot recommend it because I know they download it, they see English interface, and they just go to Binance instead because Binance is translated, and they use KYC platforms. And this is the reality, unfortunately, and there are so many things that must be tailored for newcomers, and I keep saying it everywhere, that please, if you develop anything, think about the final user. And some can ask, like, why do I need to develop something for activists or for people like me? And my answer is, okay, if you work in the Bitcoin field, if you create something, maybe it can inspire you that you can also, by your work, you can contribute to bigger cause. Because if you create a non-custodial wallet, maybe you don't realize it, but you just saved someone's life, or you just saved someone's freedom because someone in Russia used your wallet and you didn't even realize it, but someone stayed out of prison thanks to you. So maybe it can inspire someone and it will make you think further in this direction.
And I do want to say that it's again, for end users right now, to a newcomer, it may be hard to see. But I think development in the background is going in the right direction where right now it's been difficult, as you said, deciphering, okay, what the hell wallet are we going to recommend? We've had a few different, between workshops at the Oslo Freedom Forum or our webinars, in terms of the demo wallet that we use, I think it's changed every time because of just fee spikes and how does this interact, and like how did we see people utilizing this, and it's complicated, or the backup is different, and it's been a little bit of a and I'm understating, it's been a huge challenge just figuring where is that onboarding point. But I think the big thing is, as you said, when you onboard somebody, it's really crappy to be like, okay, we're going to use this wallet for here because it works well to do a demo transaction. But actually, you're going to need something completely different when you leave here, and we're not going to use that today. That cannot be how it works. It needs to be, this is great to demo and show you your first transaction, and also you're going to continue using this tool into the future. And I think we're starting to see the hints of that. I was just chatting with Elizabeth Stark on the stage, and we're talking about how Lightning is becoming kind of the glue that's holding a bunch of different protocols together and allowing them to speak. And so you have things like eCash systems that are very private, but there's a trade-off where you can either be very custodial or kind of split that up. But as an onboarding mechanism, if your wallet maybe relies on that for your first small demo transaction, but then makes you more self-sovereign and allows you a pathway to self-custody in the same interface where you don't even have to think and it just does it as your balance grows, I think that's a very promising thing, especially for us to just say, use this, it'll just work. And we don't have to explain to them that they're going to be safer and safer the more funds they hold. So I don't know.
Yeah, educating activists is very different from educating anyone else. My friends from Cash App asked me, why don't you teach Cash App? And I say, will you onboard me? I have a Russian passport. And they're like, oh, no, we cannot onboard you because regulations will not allow us to do that. And just not everyone realizes it, that activists have some specific needs and some platforms just don't work with them, and it's a very specific problem. But yeah, generally, since I think we're running out of time, so I would like to say that whatever you do in the Bitcoin world, we are having our next webinar coming soon next week. It's the webinar for activists and nonprofits. So if you work in the field, you can join. But if you have any advice, any recommendations, please feel free to contact us. Since you know what kind of struggles we have, it will be very fruitful for us.
And also, if you're a Bitcoin business, if you have a service, if you have a device, if you have something you'd like to contribute to our work at the Human Rights Foundation, please do reach out, hrf.org. You can reach out to Anna as well. Come find us. Anything that you would like to do to help, or if you just love to bounce ideas off of us, we're all ears. So thank you very much.
Thank you.